State right now looks a lot like Michigan.
Yeah. And I said that last week and you ripped me.
But now I've got something to base it on.
No, I said that same.
No, you didn't.
Same. Run the tape.
You didn't.
I'm looking at Florida State, and I know we said stuff last year, and I don't want to say them because
say what you've got to say, man.
Last week we were not ripping on them, but we both kind of said
I thought they were going to be. I thought LSU was going to expose
We thought they'd be
them.
0-1, and their hopes would be dead. Well, now I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm going, okay, well, they beat LSU convincingly.
Yeah, not even close.
Who's next on their list? Clemson. Well, I just saw what Duke did to them. So who do I think has the easiest path to the playoffs now? It's the Seminoles. And so to me, that is the team that you have to look out for. Now, does that necessarily mean that I think that they are one of the best? No, but they have the easiest route in my mind.
To go 13-0 to win your conference. The committee says they value wins, they value conference championships, they value all this stuff. Why is Florida State playing the regular season then? To go 13-0 like that.
Well, and that's why that rule exists.
And if we're not going to count Alabama's loss in September or the way they played in September, then why are we playing games in September? That doesn't make sense to me. Do I think Alabama is a better football team than Florida State right now? Sure, I do. But I don't think they should have gone. I fully believe that Florida State got robbed in this. It at this point, it is what it is. I am at least glad if they're going to get left out. I'm at least glad that we get to see Florida State play Georgia. I think that's going to be a really good matchup. I would have rather seen Ohio State get a shot at Georgia, just because I think that would have been a more entertaining matchup. But as it stands, I kind of like the fact that the first two teams out get to play each other. How motivated will Georgia be for that game? Probably not, but Florida State will.
I had Penn State losing to Iowa. That did not happen.
Nope.
By the way, Cade McNamara's whole thing in preseason about
I love it. Give it to him.
He said, please keep saying we're the worst offense in football. Please.
Will you look right there and say it?
Keep saying we're the worst offense in football. Please keep thinking we're the worst offense in football. Cade McNamara, you are the worst offense in football.
Awful.
Oh my goodness gracious. But we've got a defense that can finally score. Penn State stomps Iowa, and I'm not upset about it.
Cade was a team captain.
Yeah.
That's not captain material. That's not what you want on your team. And, God love him for what he did, but that's not how you do that. By the way, the other guy seems pretty darn good.
And I thought it was a little bit of poetic justice that McNamara goes to Iowa. Not that him being injured is a part of this.
No, not at all.
But he gets injured, doesn't even get to play. They go to the championship game where he has to watch Michigan win against his team.
Yeah, then a pretty ugly game where you got waxed by 4 touchdowns.
And then to make it even better, I saw a report that he was doing something at like a children's school or something like that, passing out stuff. And the teacher said, "Do you guys know who this is?" And all the kids said, "No." And I thought, man, that is just a kick, that is just you need taken down a few notches.
Hospital have no clue that you exist.
You need taken down a few notches. That is just one way to do it.
One of the best parts of the Big Ten championship game is I was in kind of the bowels of Lucas Oil trying to navigate my way to the field, which that's a whole discussion for another time. Big Ten, figure it out. Are we or are we not allowed on the field after the game? Figure it out. But walk past Cade. He was not having a good time.
I believe
he was not having a good time at all. What we know right now is, and again, I'll summarize this because I do think this is worth talking about, is what we know right now is nothing.
Yep.
All we know right now, public information, is Michigan has suspended Connor Stallions with Connor Stallions with pay. And we know the NCAA has opened an investigation into whether or not sign stealing occurred illegally.
Yeah.
And whether or not in-person scouting happened. No evidence has been presented.
And
nothing has been made public. That's all we know. I'll say this too, because this gets me hot under the collar. Shame on The Athletic. Shame on The Athletic for some of the stories that they've run already that are basically these hit jobs based on no public information. No evidence that's been presented. They're writing articles talking about, well, the NCAA has retroactively stripped banners before. Could they preemptively taint Michigan's national title? Shut up.
They're not going to do that.
Garbage free, yeah, but shut up. that is disgusting. If something is proven, if you say, wow, there's absolutely a vast network of people and we have concrete evidence to prove it, here it is, fine. Then we can talk about what's an adequate punishment. But at this point, to write an article like that, shame on you. we're not going to touch the Michigan sign thing.
Is it because the last time?
I don't know if you've ever recorded a full podcast episode about how there's no public information about the Michigan sign stealing, whatever. And then like an hour later, there's a lot of public information about the Michigan
Can we just take 5 seconds to talk about how Jace was on the podcast last week, just going to town about how going after the Athletic and saying how there was no proof. And then I get a text in all caps. Remember when you recorded an entire episode saying that everything is fake and then it turns out it wasn't? And then later that week, we're having another conversation where you're like, oh man, yeah, it just seems like he was a rogue guy, blah, blah, which hasn't been disproven.
That's still very, see, I can't even say that's still on the table because at the time,
you better be careful because we had like 7 reels that we couldn't use last week because you were just spewing garbage.
Into the core of the sun.
Yes. Okay? Oh, it was phenomenal. Jace was the absolute
King Jesus. I'm done.
He was the absolute jinx. I loved it.
So here's the deal. So we're not gonna talk about. If you're like, why aren't they talking about? Because there's a we record Monday morning. Harbaugh's press conference is in like an hour. Yeah. And I'm not doing that this week. Okay?
Literally the only thing we know is literally nothing. Okay. So
you know more than we do probably.
All I want to say in remarks to you calling me a hater is I'm pretty sure a couple weeks ago when Kyle McCord dominated Western Kentucky, who you thought we were going to struggle with, you called his performance mid. And that was essentially what he did here. Him and McCarthy played the same thing. They did what they had to do.
Don't ever mention Kyle McCord and JJ McCarthy.
Kyle McCord is better than JJ McCarthy. I'll say it right here. It's facts.
Listen, I'm not even going to entertain
now
that.
I'm just riled up.
McCord, for me, I think the encapsulation of what I feel for him and with him is that, taking the 20-yard sack and kind of just shoveling this thing over to Chip Traynham.
Horrifying.
Followed by, let me drop this pass to Marv on the side.
A dot.
Like back-to-back plays. I get Jekyll and Hyde with him. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Jekyll and Hyde.
Stop.
Jekyll and Hyde with him.
Don't make that a thing,
please.
Oh,
it's a thing.
Please
I'm going to make shirts that say Jekyll and Hyde.
I'm comfortable with McCord being QB1. And I think a lot of Ohio State's issues are just he's the easy scapegoat. I don't think a lot, and I'm not saying Kyle McCord was blameless in the Michigan loss, but he is not the sole reason they lost that game. I'm not going to sit here and also defend him and make it seem like he was the greatest quarterback to ever wear scarlet and gray, but to sit here and make it seem like he was so bad that he doesn't deserve to be the starter, I don't agree with.
Kyle McCord to Syracuse.
I've been waiting for this.
I'm going to let you.
Let me limber up real quick.
Oh, yikes.
I'll limber up real quick.
I'm going to let you take first crack at this because you can already assume my thoughts.
Look, and if this is your first time viewing this podcast, go back and watch it. Fact check me. I have been a very fair defendant of Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord is better than JJ McCarthy. I'll say it right here. And I get this. I do. I understand it. I don't respect it. And here's why. If we're being honest, Kyle McCord is never going to the NFL. So I get if you're a football player, you love the game, and you had a good season, you felt like you deserved to be a starter. I understand that mindset. I just don't, it's weak to me to be afraid of that. I would have rather him said, okay, you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to take it.
The reason that we love college football, the reason we agonize over is this 22-year-old coming back to college or going to start his first full-time job, is because we fell in love with this sport, most of us at a really early age. When I was 5, my dad had missed our New Year's party. He had been at the Rose Bowl game where Michigan beat Washington State. That's where he was, watching Michigan win that national title. And so now, you fast forward 26 years later, I've got a 5-year-old, and I'm watching Michigan win a Rose Bowl. Michigan's winning national titles. This is why we love college football. And on the other side, in those moments where your team doesn't get it done, you still love it. Not because it's going to ultimately fulfill you or anything, but because there's that pursuit of that hope of, could we ascend the mountaintop next? That's why we love this dumb sport.